Hello, welcome to your Empowered Astrology forecast with Sarah McCallum, the Cosmic Finder. This is for the week of December the 5th. So we are going to experience a little bit of a shift in energy in regards to both the personal planets of Mercury as well as Venus this week. They will both be moving into the cardinal Earth sign of Capricorn. So Capricorn is the astrological sign that helps us to tap into the structures, the foundations, the strategies that help us get what it is that we want, desire, and need out of life. Capricorn's energy can be very focused on goals, and oftentimes the downside to this perspective is a strong focus on the end point without recognizing the beauty of the journey, the beauty in the process to achieving whatever goal you have in mind. So when Mercury, the planet that governs the way that we think and communicate, and Venus, the planet that governs the way in which we really experience life in its richness in ways that feel sensual, that feel beautiful, that feel aesthetically pleasing. When those planets move into Capricorn, there can be a bit of a focus on the structure of your words, the structure of your communication, but also the foundations around how you pursue the sensual pleasures in life, how you enjoy life. Maybe this can show up as a fixation on creating beautiful spaces in your home. Maybe there is a need to renovate your office space, bring in different features that feel more aesthetically pleasing. Perhaps, with Venus, this has something to do with relationships. So maybe there is a strategy that you're focusing on implementing in regards to creating more harmony in your intimate relationships, maybe more harmony in work interactions, perhaps a collaboration. And with Mercury in Capricorn, it may be wise to pull out the journal, to start to really just brain dump what it is that you're thinking about, what you're focusing on, the ways in which you want to bring things to life. Because at the essence of Capricorn, again, is that sense of strategy. How am I going to get from A to B? And being able to kind of map that out in the written form, whether it be drawing it or writing it down, might be really impactful and helpful. So Capricorn energy can also be likened to the father, being very focused on reputation, how you're perceived, but also what it is you leave behind, legacy. So maybe there is a strategy around, implementing different types of processes related to your legacy as well. I could even envision something like tapping into a written will feels very Mercury in Capricorn, right? Because it's simply paying attention to and working on an integral foundational piece of the life experience. And in particular, it affects those left behind when you transition on to the next dimension. So mull those over in your mind, see how those ideas sit with you. Maybe they feel resonant, perhaps not, but just recognize that that shift within both Mercury and Venus is going to happen this week. We also are going to celebrate a full moon this week in Gemini. The moon will be opposing the sun in Sagittarius, and this is going to happen on the 7th of December in the evening, about 8 o'clock p.m. if you're on the Pacific coast of the United States of America. So full moons are a wonderful time to celebrate, but to also release and perhaps do a little bit of both. So there may be celebratory interactions and engagements with friends, may feel light and fun. Perhaps there is an element of game mindedness, like mental interaction that feels very witty or curious. And the interesting thing when you have this opposition between the sun and the moon is like within the season of Sagittarius, pursuing the truth, seeking what it is that's important to each of us morally, tapping into expansive ideas, perhaps, traveling or exploring. We have this illumination of the moon in Gemini, which can be about gathering with others and asking each person what they feel is true to them, and gaining knowledge and experience from this practice. Gemini is ultimately very curious and really enjoys understanding how other people think, understanding why people believe the things that they do. Whereas Sagittarius is really more focused on pursuing the truth for their own evolution process, regardless of what anyone else thinks or feels. So also just tap into kind of like that polarity and that balance, and recognize that Gemini energy does love versatility. You may feel like that mutable quality very strongly during the full moon. You may want to just do something different, something that you haven't done before, something that you don't usually do to celebrate this full moon. In terms of the release point, because Gemini does highlight the way in which we gather facts and information, there may be a need to release maybe different media outlets that you've been gathering information from. Perhaps you recognize that the source of that information doesn't feel very authentic, or it doesn't serve your evolution process. Again, Mars is currently still retrograde in Gemini, and that tendency for gossip is definitely highlighted as well. So lean away from anything that feels gossipy. And if you're interacting with friends or family or loved ones, and that's kind of the direction that the conversation moves in, perhaps you could be the catalyst to bring it back to topics that don't involve conversing negatively about others. So let that be a little inspiration. All right, and During the course of this week, the moon will move from Taurus into Gemini, where we will celebrate the full moon, and then into Cancer, and then finally into Leo. So I talked last week about the importance of tapping into ritual process while the moon is in Taurus, connecting with Mother Nature, and really recognizing which habits and routines feel nourishing to you and which ones leave you drained. While the moon is in Gemini and around this full moon, I highly suggest journaling and perhaps even tapping into sacred scribe, tapping into divinatory writing, channeled writing, really just allowing source or spirit to come through you, to move through you and out onto the paper. When the moon is in Cancer, it's really important to connect with our body and ask our body how we may serve and nourish it, and prepare healthy foods that feel supportive, and even perhaps prepare those foods for loved ones. And then when the moon moves into Leo at the end of this week, Leo energy is just ultimately very fun, joyful. There's a bit of theatrical or dramatic flair. And so any way that you can tap into movement, tap into dance, tap into whatever helps you feel creatively self-expressed. That would be a great way to honor the Leo moon. So I wish you all a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the full moon. And I will talk with you next week.